how you want to do it, like you want to have this guy right here, he's the guy behind here.
Okay, yeah, I figure we just go in that order. Yeah. Thanks for that. Wait another moment before we get started. Is this on the agenda or not on the agenda?
I mean, it's, Jen, I was.
So you don't know if you oh, okay, I see. That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's all I needed to know. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Thank you for coming. Tonight is Tuesday, September the 17th. And if you'll please stand and remain standing after the pledge for a moment of silence. Barbara's going to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you will join me in a moment of silence, a moment of gratitude for all that we enjoy in this township and for all of the first responders whom we rely on to protect us and keep us safe and to keep the township running. And also for the township employees, Parks and Rec, Public Works, we are extremely grateful for. So please join me in a moment of silence, a moment of gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right. So everyone is aware this meeting is being recorded via Zoom. And we will upload this recording later to the Township's YouTube channel for viewing. Under the chair report, the Chester County Art Walk at East Christian Park is going to be on Saturday, September 28th from 10 to 4. I'm sure that the rain date is the next day, isn't it, Jess?
So if it rains, it will be held at East High School on the 28th.
Oh, good to know. Okay, so just a location change. Also, under the chair report, I'm just going to comment that we've discussed the budget a number of times for 2025. While we had the first budget rollout at the regularly scheduled meeting on September the 3rd, only a few people were actually present. At the meeting on September 10th, only one person was present and for only a portion of the meeting. My point is that we're going to continue to have meetings. We're going to be discussing the budget through the rest of the year. And it would just be really nice to have some residents participate and be present so that they can have a say as to how the tax dollars are going to be spent. That's just my own personal note. Is there any public comment on anything that is not on the agenda? Okay, and then under emergency services reports, we're going to have WeGo. Thanks. Chief Bernard is going to come on up. How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Yes, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'd like to start with the statistical report. For the month of August, there was 2,148 activities logged by the police department. Of those, 1,188 involved East Ocean. Year-to-date incidents, 13,052 incidents. And I'd like to kind of highlight on some trends. First trend I'd like to highlight on is frauds and scams in East Ocean. During the month of July and August, a total of 27 frauds and 4 counterfeiting offenses occurred in the East Ocean. This is slightly higher than normal, but what caused us concern is that when we looked at the incidents where residents actually lost money, not just that their identity was stolen or somebody opened a credit card in their name, but where residents actually gave money to people For July and August, the total amount lost for East Goshen residents and businesses was just under $500,000 for 2 months, with one resident incurring a loss of $200,000 to $300,000 herself. That's very concerning to us. We continue to do a lot of education. We continue to put a lot of information out. But if there is anyone who is interested in receiving more, please reach out to us. We will be happy to do more activities. The one activity that we did recently in East Goshen was coffee with a cop at the East Goshen East Goshen Giant on September 6th. And we did talk to a lot of residents about fraud and scam prevention. The second trend I'd like to talk about is thefts. In July and August, there were a total of 17 offenses, which is higher than normal. There was only one retail theft, which occurred in East Goshen. There were 10 thefts that occurred in East Goshen, but there was no commonality. They ranged from health aides allegedly stealing from a patient to mailbox thefts, package thefts. A tree service had 2 chippers that were stolen from them, locker theft at the YMCA, etc. So again, we remind everybody that if you have valuables, please lock them up. And it's never a bad idea to invest in some cameras. And the last trend was disturbances. There were a total of 49 calls for the 2 months, which is quite high for East Goshen for a 2-month period. Again, there was no commonalities among them. Getting back to some of the things I'd also like to point out to you is we encourage people to visit our website, to visit our Facebook page, our Instagram, because there's a lot of good information out there. One thing that we're very happy to announce is that tomorrow at our police commission meeting, we are going to be doing what East Goshen and Westtown currently does, which allows people to participate remotely. And that is due to the townships providing us with the funds to upgrade the technology in the room where we hold our police commission meetings. So our thanks to the townships for giving us the funds to do that. Are there any questions? Yes.
The fraud, you said it was an individual who lost between $200,000 and $300,000. I don't want to know a name, obviously, but what was the nature of the scam?
The individual was contacted that a service that she provided was expired. For some reason, they kept contacting her and she kept paying, trying to get that service back. Well beyond what any person would have paid for that. But then again, you don't really know what's going through the victim's mind. One of the things that we're exploring is we're looking for ways when an individual wires money or somehow transfers funds. We're trying to work with the financial community to find a way to claw some of that back. But unfortunately, a lot of these funds are leaving the country. And it makes it extraordinarily difficult. Again, I'm going to tell you that East Goshen always has some of those frauds and scams, and they are targeting our seniors. That's why we are trying to do everything humanly possible to reach out and connect. We are hoping that individuals will watch our police commission meetings, will watch township meetings, will show up at some of our events, and they will spread the word to other individuals. If anybody ever calls you up and says, you need to pay me now, there's a warrant for your arrest, or you need to do this, you need to buy gift cards, or you need to buy Bitcoin, it is a scam. I can guarantee you it's a scam. If nothing else, if you ever have a doubt, call the police department. We will literally walk you through everything. We will come to your house when that person calls, and we will take the call for you. But you need to take the first step and reach out to us. So please use our services.
So tagging on to John's question, I just wanted to know, I guess this means that this person cannot recover any of the monies at this point, and you are working on a means of how you can, like you said, claw it back.
We're trying to find ways, but it's the financial institutions. Once you do a wire transfer,
That's
it's
it.
pretty much gone.
That's it. That's terrible. Thank you very much for that. Does anybody else have questions?
Chief, I just want to say I look forward to being the first user of the virtual room tomorrow, and I appreciate you all making an accommodation for me tomorrow for the WeGo meeting. So,
We're happy that you could join us, and I hope that you're patient with us.
oh, absolutely.
It's trial.
Very good.
Any other questions?
Anything else? Anybody in the room have anything for the chief?
We can.
Anybody on the Zoom platform with any questions for the chief? Last question. I wanted to ask, I know that there was some kind of, an effort that was going to be made specifically in Hershey's Mill, possibly Bellingham and Wellington, to really talk to the seniors about fraud and scams. Has that been something that you've done, or is it something that's still in the works?
We have done it repeatedly,
I was afraid of
in the
that.
last 12 years. And, as a result of the talk with the cop at the East Goshen Giant, we're hoping to get back in, and we've not only done presentations, but we've worked with our TV station to record it, and then it gets played repeatedly back, so that if you can't make the event, at least you
Can see the recording. That's great.
And,
Thanks so much.
and Hershey's Mill is looking forward to welcoming you soon for the Paoli Hospital Auxiliary. You're doing a presentation on fraud and scam. Oh, good. Maybe the TV could film that.
That's possible.
I'll see if what I can find out.
Excellent. That would be wonderful.
All right, well, thank you so much. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
that, Chief Bernard. Have a
Yeah.
good evening.
See you tomorrow. Thanks.
We're going to skip the monthly reports from both Goshen and Malvern, and also Good Fellowship is what I meant to say. We're gonna go on to the financial report. We'll get the reports from you all when you do your presentations for the budget. So having no public hearings, we'll go to the financial report and approval of the minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I do my report, I would like to wish my daughter Nyla Marie a very happy 10th birthday and say that I'm sorry I can't be with her tonight. But I love you very much and we're on YouTube, so she'll really think that's cool. Love you, sweetheart. As of August 31st, net of pass-throughs, the general fund had year-to-date revenues of $9,826,719 and expenses of $8,342,780 for a net result of $1,483,938. As of August 31st, the general fund balance was $7,490,514. Versus the budget, our year-to-date August revenue finished 0.9% or $91,000 above budget. EIT collections, transfer tax receipts, alarm fees, insurance proceeds, and summer program fees offset budget shortfalls in real estate property tax collections. Our year-to-date August expenses are 0.3% or $26,000 under budget. A WEGO budget surplus of $104,000 offset higher district court expenses versus budget. And the overage and PNR expenses versus budget will be offset by community day and camp out expense reimbursement requested to Friends of East Goshen later this month, next Tuesday. Probably close to $40,000. The increased Parks and Rec revenue offsets the higher summer programming costs. Are there any questions on the financial report or the fund balances? I also included this month an interest income. John had mentioned in the last, was curious about the interest rates we were getting. So I thought I would show how much we've gotten in interest year-to-date August and how much percent of our balances in those funds are the interest that we've gotten just year-to-date. And that's over a 5% interest rate, pretty much by focusing on using splitting it in prime. $721,000 is a lot of money.
David, first of all, thank you. Secondly, the far right column percent total, what exactly is that?
That's the percent total of the amount of interest year to date versus the total balance as of August 31st. So the
Okay.
first line general fund is 223 divided by 7.49 million.
I got you. How come they differ so much? How come that one's 10%?
Because we spent a lot of it down, so we got it early, and the balance that we have in August, we have a minimal balance left.
I see, matter of timing again.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Can you just clarify the district court expenses to me?
Yes.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. So Mark Miller, and I mentioned this on one of the budget, maybe it was last month with year to date. I typically give him a budget worksheet and he will comb through it, make line item additions, subtractions, say call out certain projects and things. So he had a plus number of $13,000, something like that. And instead of adding that to my existing number, I put in the 13,000. So my budget is completely off on district court expenses for this year. and I missed it when we got to, the final comb through. So that'll be off throughout the rest of the year, but it was also exacerbated because that 13,000 was the LED lighting. And then on top of that, we also had to remove a hornet's nest that was in the wall. So that one's gonna be off. Hopefully I can offset it with, other expenditure reductions.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure we were clear on that.
Mhm.
And there were also other improvements, wainscoting and carpeting or something like that, so.
Those were years ago when the
Okay.
the current contract was done.
Okay, I thought that they were done more recently. It's my mistake. Okay, thank you. All right, then moving along to the minutes of August the 6th, September the 3rd, and September the 10th.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the minutes from the August 6th, September 3rd, September 10th meeting.
Thank you, Cody. Is there a second?
Second emotion.
All right. John, I think John beat Pete on that. Thank you. Did anybody have any corrections? None? Are there any questions regarding the minutes in the room or on the Zoom platform? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor of passing the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That's 5 ayes. Thank you. On to the payment of bills. And the
Thank you,
treasurer's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The treasurer's report is for the weeks of August 29th, 2024 through September 12th, 2024. EIT, LSD, transfer tax collections, interest income, permits, parks and rec registrations drove our general fund revenue during this period. Our general fund expenses during this period included 416,000 monthly WEGO contribution, paving costs, insurance payments, pension contribution, parks and rec golf outing costs, computer services, tree removal, third-party inspection services, and routine operational expenses. Our bond fund expenditures of 38,000 include Milltown paving along the trail, trash receptacles, and also some engineering costs. The infrastructure sustainability fund expenses include $4,000 of pond treatment services, pipe, as well as fish for the Bow Tree Pond.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the receipts and approve the expenditures as presented in the expenditure register and summarizing treasurer's report.
Thanks, Cody. Oh, Barbara got the second here, Pete. Boy, that's all right. He'll catch up. It's all right. It's all good. Are there any questions for Dave regarding the bills? Are there any questions regarding bills here in the room or on the Zoom platform? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. Those in favor of paying the bills, say aye, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Those will be paid.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to, as is my prerogative, skip the old business. We'll continue the discussion of the budget later. I'd like to bring up the new business, the discussion and possible land development approval of 14 Reservoir Road, which is a 2-lot subdivision.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just give me a second. I'm gonna pull it up. Again, this is a 2-lot subdivision on 14 Reservoir Road. I believe it is the new property will be behind the existing property, if I'm not mistaken. I believe the owner is here along with Kelly, and Dwayne is online. So if there are any questions, I'm gonna pull up a map of the property while get going. If you have any questions, if you'd like them to present, and certainly do whatever the board's prerogative is.
Okay, does anybody want a presentation? I think we probably have all looked at the information ourselves. Do we have any questions?
Madam Chair, I just have one question.
Sure.
It's for Mr. Glosson, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Buss, just so you know, could you please come up to the microphone? Thanks. Just say your name into the record if you don't mind, please. Thank you so much.
Jeff Lawson.
Mr. Glosson attended our conservancy meeting last month, I don't know, within the last 2 months. One of the recommendations the conservancy board made was to change some of the trees and the bushes and the shrubbery, and I was just wondering if that was made.
Yes.
Perfect.
Incorporated into our file.
That's my only question. That's my beautiful. Thank you.
Great. Go ahead, John.
Is the road wide enough?
So they're doing it this right.
Take your time.
Take your time, John. Kelly's gonna come up to you, so don't go too far though. Yeah.
So it's a drive access from. The drive access from the road from Reservoir. There was some discussion about the width of the driveway. Dwayne, can probably speak for himself, I think he's on Zoom.
But, it's my understanding that he has found that that is resolved, a 15-foot wide driveway, as approved by the zoning hearing board by variance. So that portion of it has been in here.
Was that up or down was that increased?
I believe it was increased from the original.
Yeah, actually, that part of it was decreased.
From, what was the
5
requirement?
20 feet to 15.
And the zoning hearing board,
I'm sorry, I had the zoning hearing board allow the decrease, we originally wanted a 20-foot wide driveway, but, has found to be, happy with 15 feet, in lieu of the 20. And it's wouldn't want to jump in and correct.
When was zoning hearing board,
It was
hearing?
a while, that was a while
It was
ago.
wild.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
I don't remember the date.
July 21st, 2021.
That's what I
Yeah,
thought.
and just to clarify, since it's a private driveway, it's different than the standard we would have if it was a public street.
Yeah.
Just to
Okay.
clarify.
and is this also a shared driveway? Is this, what kind of a lot is this? I just want to know, do you each have a separate private driveway?
Yes, so it is a flag lot, so
Okay.
the flagpole portion of the lot will be at the bottom of the flag portion would share, but the rest of the driveway. So the bulk of the driveway.
Okay,
Mhm.
It's.
That's- that's what I wasn't positive.
Flagpole part. And so this is the.
So,
And they can share this.
can you hear me, Dwayne?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep. Go ahead. Sorry, Dwayne had
So-
something.
The driveway specifically, about 2 years ago, the zoning hearing board looked at this driveway. Because of the pole, the requirement was a total of 30 feet, I believe, or 40-foot wide for that whole portion. Looking at the driveway paved area, as far as the access for emergency services, we dropped it to a 15-foot width. First of all, because the zoning hearing board allowed that as a maximum width, 4 to 15 feet. Looking at the property also, it was reduced because of the contours of the road to the right side, the side away from the house falls off. So based on those items and it being a single family with a hydrant to the rear of the property close by, I allowed for that 15-foot.
Okay, I have another question. Is there a separation of, what's the separation between the two driveways? Is that gonna be a grassy area between the two driveways, or is that?
Correct, yes.
And so are we gonna allow any shrubbery or trees to be planted along there or no? Dwayne, do you have any?
That would probably be more of a,
Yeah, it's not part of the landscape plan.
Okay.
Because there's also a drainage portion that's
Okay.
controlled along the side. of the
Okay,
driveway
great,
as well.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. If you look where that driveway takes an angle, there's actually stormwater management stuff right where that tree would be
Great.
normally. So
okay,
there's stormwater management. There's 2 beds that run under the driveway and then one bed that runs down to the roadway.
okay. I just wanted to make sure, because then a fire truck or other large truck could potentially use both driveways if they had to. If they had to, they could drive, my point is they could drive over that grassy area potentially. If they had to.
They probably would not be able to do that because of the swale for the
Okay,
stormwater management.
gotcha, okay. All right, you're satisfied that this is not gonna be a problem for.
No,
any vehicle, fire trucks or
it's
anything?
no more detailed than a normal driveway that we have in the township. So
Okay,
I
fine.
helped,
Perfect for me.
Madam Chair,
thanks, Dwayne.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the preliminary final subdivision land development plan for Jeffrey and Michelle Glosson for the property located at 14 Reservoir Road, subject to the recommendations of the planning commission staff and township engineer.
Thanks, Cody. Second. We'll keep that credit. All right, are there any questions here? No problem. Are there any questions here in the room regarding this subdivision? Anything on the Zoom platform? And seeing none, I'm going to call the question. Those in favor of passing this?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. 5-0. Thank you so much for
Thank you very much.
And we invite you to stay for more discussion if you choose to. Okay. Um, should we move the presentations now?
We should probably go to the presentation.
I think so.
Still go from.
Yeah, we'll continue with the new business. And we're going to, Grant and Ted, do you want to go ahead and make a presentation then to us, please? And then Jazz will have you come up after. Thank you.
If they want to start with that.
If you want to start with your monthly report there, thanks so much, Grant. Thanks for being here.
Well, so for August, we had 61 fire calls, 27 fire police responses, and 444 EMS responses. That's our third highest EMS for the month. We had 24 fire calls in East Ocean, 3 fire police responses, and 210 EMS responses, for a total of 237. One thing that we noticed for August, the false alarms jumped up to 57% of our fire responses, and they've been around 40%, so that's a pretty significant increase. And unfortunately, primarily due to we had 19 automatic alarms in East Ocean out of a total of 24 calls. We are coming up on Fire Prevention Month, and when I wrote this report, we had 11 fire safety education events booked in roughly 15. So that's pre-Ks, child fairs, elementary schools, so forth. So we're not busy in October. We'll also be hosting our fire prevention open house on Friday, October 11th, from 6 p.m. Everybody's welcome to join us. And then our 15-week club raffle is in progress. We picked up the first week on Sunday, so we'll continue that through the summer.
Okay.
Any questions on the monthly?
I'm just curious why there was such a jump in the false alarms, and
You know, there was a few of our regulars in there, Bellingham, Ellington. But for them, nothing really out of the ordinary. A lot of it was just one-time occurrences at some of the family residents. Up on Hershey's Mill, but wasn't a real rhyme or reason to it.
were there any fines that were levied? Or not at
It was
this?
a single occurrence.
No. Okay. All right.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
The total man hours, 239, is that total hours or is? That's
Or
total work hours?
fire costs.
For fire costs.
Fire police and EMS costs. On top of that, the training hours and fundraising hours.
Yeah, so is there 4 guys? Like, it says 146 man hours. That's 2 guys, like. I'm trying to think outside.
So that's the staff hours spent on, just on calls.
Total staff hours per guy,
No, altogether.
all together. added
So
up.
if we have
Okay,
4 people that spend 30 minutes at a call, that's.
Okay.
Staff hours.
gotcha.
I just want to make one comment as someone who did a false alarm on my own security system the other month. I'm thankful we don't find the first time. So
Amen. Yep. We've had
yeah, I got the letter from Dwayne. I'm like, what is it? What? I'm like, oh well, yeah, I'm guilty.
Once upon a time, we had that too. Good.
Are volunteer hours recorded in any way? Are they part of the person hours that are?
So so this is our operations report, which reflects our hours spent on calls. On our annual report, we track the attendance, training hours, fundraising hours, all those things.
What about volunteers going out for a call?
That's what's in this report.
So that this is, okay, yeah.
Yeah, these are the hours spent on calls.
But there's no breakdown of volunteers versus paid. Is that
We
correct?
can do that as well.
Okay, I think that
This is everybody. This
That's
is
everybody.
career and volunteer all together.
okay. I think that I'd like to start seeing, I think that we would like to see how many hours the volunteers are putting
Or out
out.
on calls, yeah. How well we're
Yeah.
utilizing them
Yeah.
actually to support on call.
Is that something that everybody else is amenable to? Okay, yep, okay, great, thank you.
How many volunteers do we currently have? Who go out on calls?
Fire crew 55, fire police 22, 23, EMS volunteers. About 8%.
Thank you.
Brad, do you want to stay up there and go right into the presentation that you have?
Yeah, so, we have sent a draft to Derek and, Blake for review. We'll hopefully have some conversations with them over the next couple of weeks. We just wanted to give the board some highlights, sort of where we are in 24 and what we're looking at in 2025. So on the income side, our income is running about 6% below budget, 2024, primarily due to the loss of the Friday, Saturday night revenue at the fair. That's gonna account for about $110,000 lost revenue. We're also seeing some softness in almost all of our income lines, such as EMS billing income's down about 2%. Donations are down 12%. EMS subscriptions are down 12% from budget. So we're taking a close eye on it, are keeping a close eye on those things. So 15-week club went out. Those numbers seem okay, pretty close to budget, but we're still receiving checks and making deposits.
Wait, Grant, I left my check on my dresser and I just realized that. I was talking to Barbara. Is it too late to submit for the 15-week? Okay, yeah, the odds aren't that great for that, but yeah, okay. I don't know. I'll walk it across the street then. Yeah.
And then on the expense side, against budget, we are 4% above budget, the expenses. And then 2% over where we think we're going to be for our projected budget at the end of the year. For what we're looking at for 2025 for the municipal contributions for all 4 townships together, we're looking at an 8% increase. But it varies by township based on the funding formula in terms of what our ask is going to be. East Goshen and West Goshen are a little bit behind in terms of the funding formula. So our ask is going to be at 9%. And then West Town will be 8% and Georgetown will be 3%. So they're a little bit closer to the funding formula.
What's the 9% equal, Grant?
9% for East Goshen is $43,000.
43. Thanks.
And our presentation also breaks it out for EMS and fire, so you can see as best as we can split that up. You can see what each one of those goes to.
Grant, I'm curious, what is the #1 cost increase? What's driving your costs up?
So our biggest expense line is payroll. So even though payroll's only going up 3% above projection, it's a big number, $75,000. So it's a small percent on a big number. The next biggest is probably our capital reserve for apparatus funding. It's going up 8%, to 276,000. And that just to try to keep up with the rise in cost of apparatus. We are still waiting to hear our apparatus fund by our calculation is about $850,000 off target. And that's a long range plan, it looks out 10, 15 years. And, you know we can't make that up in any else. There's no way we keep chunking at it year after year. But if we were to get that LSA grant, that gave, for $550,000, that would.
Go
that would, allow that to go away.
Yeah, I did hear from Mike Ellis today. He said that they haven't made a decision yet. I think they canceled the one meeting, but they're looking at having the meeting in September, but the Fed is gonna have it. They're looking at doing a special session in October. So hopefully we'll know whether or not by then, because they do have another round of grants. It's gonna be due November 30th. So a lot of people are wondering, and we talked to the coordinator, Mike and I, both, when it was in vacation, it was, how do we know what to apply for? You haven't made a decision on last year's, because we either reapply for the same one or do something completely different to get up to the total dollar level that you're allowed to apply for. So TBD, I'll let you know when I know. You got it.
Grant, the other question I wanted to know is, how many more paid employees do you have today as opposed to since, say, 2019?
So we haven't added any full-time employees since 2017. All of 2017, we added 4. Since 2019, the only thing we've done is added the hour shift, which is the ambulance shift, the third ambulance during the daytime. And that's staffed primarily by part-timers. And we actually ran the numbers on that. That actually either breaks even or makes it, a little bit of money with the rates.
Okay,
So we're at, if you look at our staffing for the year, we're at 18.5 full-time equivalents.
18.5 full-time equivalents.
Based on our staff.
Okay. And that's been the same since 2017, when you added 4.
Well, when we added the power sheet a couple of years ago, that added a couple of FTEs because of the.
So when you added the power shift in 2019,
Not
22? Sorry, 22. So when you added them in 2022, how many employees, full-time equivalents, did you add at that time?
So that's 140 hours a week. Times 52,
So 2.2. And currently have 18.5. Did you back that out, please?
52 weeks times 140 hours.
They were 2,080 hours.
Yeah, 3.5.
3.5. I was doing different math.
But the ad in 2017, that was from 8 to 12 full-time firefighter EMTs. Yeah.
We haven't added full time.
So in 2017, we had 8, we added 4 for 12. And then in 2022,
We expanded our part-time
you
staff.
expanded the part-time staff and added 3.5 FTEs. That's still only 15 and a half. Where are the other?
Part-time fire.
So there's an overnight shift at the staff as well, with part-timers and
So
Sundays.
these are part-timers.
So
I
overnights
see.
and then Sundays. for
Okay.
staff, but
Okay,
that makes sense.
okay, all right. That's great. Okay, thank you. Oh, the other question I have is, with the township, we have to put things out for bid. And that would be anything over $10,000 we have to put out for bid. And so I'm curious to know, do you put your trucks out to bid? Or do you just go with what you are accustomed to doing?
Just to clarify, it's up to 22,000 change.
Thank you.
This one. Thanks.
Yeah, it's even different than that because over 12, we've got to get the telephonic 3 bids
That's the telephone, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But to go out in the paper and do it, that's over, yeah, what, 22,000?
22,000, okay. So you have not gone out bid for that. What other large expenses does the fire department have besides trucks and payroll? Okay, right, that's what I wanted to know. And we help with the fuel, we help with administering the payroll and pension. So that's right, but we're still offsetting it, though, we're not charging you 100% of all the time. So,
I'm not aware of that.
so Dave, it's not a full apples to apples kind of,
No, instead of them having a full-time payroll person.
Right.
Just to do that, Kelly basically takes a portion of her time and looks at it and says, okay, I did this much for payroll, this much for benefits, and I'll say this much percent was for the fire.
and we're being reimbursed that percentage.
Yes, it's added on to all the benefits we pass through. Everything is basically passed through
Mhm.
except for that. So the hydrant stuff, the
Right.
fuel, we do the payroll stuff, the workers' comp, the Delaware Valley healthcare, that all.
Then they
we do it
also-
on a quarterly basis.
Then they get the gas at a reduced rate through the township and they take repass for that.
Yeah, whatever we bid out for that's in our pumps, if they use the pumps, yeah. And we actually have a new system coming in. You talked to Mark about that, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna have different tags for them
All right,
and for us, so it should be. It's
Pretty
should be
clear.
a lot better software system now that everything is cleaner, easier. I mean, it makes it easy for them to report stuff, for us to report stuff. So.
okay. Are there any other questions of any of the board members? Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions, Barbara? John? No. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
you.
All right, that will be, you're up next, Chaz. Thank you.
Good evening, Chaz Bergen. I'm the interim executive director of the fellowship in the MSP. Some new folks here that I've met previously, so it's actually the 20th year of the fellowship. I joined as a 16-year-old high school student, to get us school early and taking a class. So 20 years later, I've been volunteer, part-time, full-time, all different ranges here. So just a quick update over the last few months with the fellowship. Volume wise, as you've seen the reports, we're pretty much staying flat, if not slightly decreasing our volume, which is a good thing. We've not seen that since the COVID pandemic, coming out of the pandemic. We're really seeing our volume stabilize, which is good. It's making it easier for us to plan the next year's budget. So year to date, brings Scotia, we're at 455 total responses, 67 of them were in August. So that was about 11.5% of our total volume was in the Scotia Township. So as an organization so far this year, we've been doing a ton of work around behavioral health. That's been identified as a priority in the last couple of years in this county with the closing brain line. We had Haven, the Haven facility coming to Westchester earlier this year. We've been partnering with them on a lot of initiatives. We're doing some transport work for them. And most importantly, we're doing a lot more training now around crisis response, de-escalation, interacting with those patients. We truly are seeing a lot of those patients. So that's going really well. Specific to East Ocean, so the fellowship provides an advanced life support service to paramedics. So what we've added this year as a benefit to the community is a medication called TXA. And it's really around hemorrhage and bleeding that we can't control. We added that 4 or 5 months ago now. Been a huge benefit on trauma patients and postpartum hemorrhage. I personally used it last Friday. Had a really serious motorcycle accident, and he's alive today. So we're really happy with this medication. It's worked really well. Looking the next couple of months, we're adding IV pumps. So the medical folks in here, just like they have in the hospital, they make a pre-hospital pump as well. That allows us to give more medications much safer. So we'll be adding them in the next couple of months as well. We're excited. So
How are you gonna manage getting them back when they get into the hospital?
we're keeping.
Okay.
Justin put stickers all over the place. I should have mentioned Justin Robbins is our interim director of operations. He's filling my role currently. Justin's been my second operations for a long time now. Does a wonderful job. And he keeps me in line. So we'll go through the presentation here. Unless you have any questions on the ops reports or anything like that. Great. This first slide here is I like to show every year to brag about our paramedics. This is a recognition from American Heart Association. So if you recall, we assumed the Advanced Life Support Service in Chester County Hospital in 2018. Since then, we've achieved the highest level of recognition for American Heart every year. That's specific to our care of chest pain, stroke, and heart attack patients. So nobody else in the county has been able to achieve this year after year. So we're really proud of that. That's the work we're doing every day. American Heart actually looks at our data every single one of those calls and make sure we're hitting their benchmark. So really proud of that. Moving along here. So the fellowship total, our entire coverage area, which you see there, is about 61 square miles. About 7,500 calls, again, East Goshen's a small piece of that. Our biggest consumers are the high population areas, Westchester, West Goshen, obviously. So get on to the next one there. Specific to East Goshen, so we cover about 67% of it. So essentially Wrigley Creek is the border that we cover and west. And you can see 675 to 700 calls annually on average. So again, that's kind of stabilized. So on an annual look, you can see where East Goshen kind of fits in the mix there. This is important when we get to the formula at the end here. So the way we work our funding formula, just like Goshen and most other first responder agencies, those who use it more pay more, right? So that's where East Goshen fits in our total mix. So this is a little busy of a slide here, but I want to point out the revenue here because, you know, we do get revenue increases year to year. Medicare gives us slight increases. For example, though, we got 2.2% for Medicare last year. Our operating budget went 13% last year. So a lot of the government healthcare payers, which is our majority, don't keep up with our costs. So slowly trickling up here, but expenses are really the issue. To Grant's point, same thing. Labor is our biggest cost, right? We have really great paramedics. We want to keep them, so we have to pay them. So we're constantly looking at salaries around the region, making sure we're competitive, benefits, stuff like that. So that's really served our expenses in the past couple of years, unfortunately. Medications, vehicles, everything else that you see in the world as well, that's a big challenge for us. So our operating deficits there, our average capital needs are there. So every year we have to overcome this $1.4 million deficit. So how do we do that? We ask our municipalities for about $600,000 every year to offset that. We also look for subscriptions, donations, grants, anything like that that make up that number. So what's good for this year, 2024, is we actually have a brand new ambulance purchased by an anonymous donor, Hunter Settlements. So we may actually achieve that deficit the first time this year in a long time. Doesn't look like it's happening for 2025. But we had a really successful year with funders, thankfully. So just click one more time, scroll down a little bit there. So pretty much covered that again, grants, donations. We do a lot of work on that. We have a development committee. We have a community members. We do have a full-time contracted grant writer now that's chasing all of that money for us. Heading into 2025. So we are working on version 1 right now. We're looking at least 11% increase in operating expenses again, mostly staff salaries. You know, we are seeing the volunteer decline as well. So we're fortunate for the volunteers we have, but they are slowly declining, unfortunately. We're replacing them with paid staff to make sure we're providing the services we need. Vehicle costs have been tremendous. Again, I probably don't have to tell you the vehicle costs we're dealing with right now. Medical supplies, medications. I remember sitting here last year explaining beds are being made in China, packaged in India, and that is extremely expensive right now. So that really has not come down. And then insurance costs as well. Insurance companies find EMS and fire very risky. We are seeing that year over year increasing tremendously. So this slide is our overall formula. You don't have to digest the entire thing. What I want to point out here is how this works. It's a 50-50 weighted scale, 50% on the usage for the 12-month period, 50% of your population. So I think it was 67% of East Goshen, so you'll see 67% of the population reflected here. Since East Goshen only gets ALS service from the fellowship, you're separate here, and you fund the ALS service with West Goshen and West County. So you're only paying for the services you need, and it's split fairly among the 3 that are just using ALS. So The Western ALS area is new, that's out in Newland and West Bradford, doesn't impact you at all, that's a separate formula you can see that, so. So that comes up with the total number for 2025 in our funding formula for East Ocean, which is a little over 44,000. And go to this last slide here. I did put the history on here, really as a compliment to you guys. You've done a wonderful job funding us. We've been working with you for several years now to get to a point where we have funding to make sure we're providing services we need. So that's where we've been over the last 5 years or so. We certainly appreciate that. The question always is that going to keep going up? The answer is yes, unfortunately. So what's good though is, I was at a national conference last week. There is a lot of federal legislation right now that's moving, that has bipartisan support. And they were very big about, they've never seen so much legislation beneficial to EMS at one time. So is it going to lower that number? No, it could slow down that rise. So any questions that I can answer on this?
I'm gonna ask you the same questions I asked Brant.
Okay.
So if you could tell us, how many paid employees do you have currently and how many do you have back in the beginning, 2020, when you started?
Okay.
Just
So
a rough estimate is fine, I'm not.
sure. We have two big departments in development, the other side of the organization is education. So
Right.
operations for you guys, from maybe down, there's 26 full-time employees, the rest of staff are part-time. That would come out to about 31 or 32 FTEs. So essentially 70 people on shift minimum. Typically more, the supervisors, the supplement that was volunteers, as we, so.
Okay, and then how many did you have 4 years ago? What was your FTE? So you said payroll is like one of your biggest expenses.
Yeah, I think we had 18 full-time folks, but the same amount of staffing, we relied on part-timers before that. So what we've done since 2019 is converted some part-time shifts to full-time. So on a given shift, 7 people minimum. Today, 5 of them are full-time, 2 of them are part-time, and 1 volunteer. So in 2019, 4 of them are full-time.
So 4 were full-time.
Yep.
Now 5 are full-time.
Yes. Full-time staff,
Okay.
just to make sure it's stable.
Okay, and do you send your apparatus out for bid, or how do you handle?
We do, so we have no policy to do it. We ordered an ambulance just a couple months ago that did put out the bid. Admittedly, we do that about every 2 or 3 purchases because we order the same thing. But every order, we're seeing our jumps of 20–25% prices. So we did put them out this year. Found out that the vendor we're using was the cheapest, thankfully. So we stayed with them, placed an order this year, which will be delivered in 2026. So.
Okay. And what other costs are your big drivers besides your apparatus and your?
Yeah, labor for sure. I would say medical supplies,
Right.
medications.
Okay.
We have a very good contract with a large regional health system that allows us to buy them very discounted, which is great. So we're
Okay.
probably paying less for meds than most EMS agencies, which is great. But that is a huge expense, medications. Those are $300–400. So
And are you guys union or not union?
not.
So other than salary, what kind of other benefit expenses do you guys
Yeah.
have?
So our employees, we pay for their health benefits, dental, we cover the employee. The employee does pay into spouse and children. So the employee is 100% covered. That's pretty standard in our market and stay competitive, leave that as is. Standard PTO, uniform allowances, tuition reimbursement, education is important to us. If the EMT wants to become a paramedic, we'll give them $3,000 to do that, actually $6,000 to do that. To try to grow their education, if they go to college, $3,000 a calendar year. So
How many similar agencies are operating in the area that you guys are? They're basically competing for the same staff.
yeah, all of them. So there's this combination, the firefighter EMT model, but also EMT only.
Yeah.
most agencies do have an EMT only option now, even if they are a fire company, just it's too hard to find both. So in Chester County, there are 23 agencies that have ambulances, firehouses or similar agencies. We're all doing this, so.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So, every now and then the wage war will start, one goes up $1 and, you know, we all try to follow, but, that's gonna be challenging.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Chaz, what have you done to reach out to other agencies to try to start to regionalize things?
We've done a lot, and I hope this time next year I can share more. We're having a conversation with another agency. So
And are you involving the county in any of that or not?
from a regulatory standpoint, we are, you know, the county is essentially the contracted arm of the Department of Health.
Yeah.
So we are involving them from that standpoint. But as you all know, the county does not want any involvement in the provision of EMS, other than to be the regulatory arm of the Department of Health. So that's what we're saying. Yeah, the county will never provide EMS services. It's not an option. They're very clear about that. They don't have a mechanism to fund it is the issue. So they can't let you tax for it. So they've been very clear they're not interested in that's not that.
Are there any more questions for Chaz on the board?
Chance, just a question, how much are you impacted by the extreme wait times in hospitals
Yeah.
now that Brandywine and Jennersville have closed?
Yeah, and you know, my other hat I wear is I work in the EMS Council, I'm the vice president of EMS Council, so I was on the meeting today, we talked a lot about what's happening in Jennersville and the success there. So the challenge for us is obviously Chester County Hospital is right across the street from our station. However, you have all the EMS units in the county coming to Chester County Hospital. So Chester County Hospital is taking more than half of all of the ambulance patients countywide. So what's nice about us is if we're with a patient waiting and Justin and I are partners, I can leave Justin with the patient to watch them. I can go back to the fellowship, find a partner with another crew. So we have that unique ability just because of how close we are. We do that a couple times a week. That works really well for us.
Chaz, are they a trauma center now, or is it
No.
just Paoli still?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, it's a challenge. We've had days we waited an hour. Most days are pretty good. Kudos to the hospital, we've done a lot of work, getting throughput and new systems to get patients in beds as quick as possible. So they've been good partners to us, thankfully.
All right, are there any other questions? All right, thank you very much for the
Thank you.
presentation.
you.
I just want to take a moment, I'm going to pull one out of the hat of a former supervisor. I do have a statement that I just wanted to make. And I did write my statement out so that I wouldn't go off course. This is my opinion, and this is solely coming from me. I appreciate the fact that you all have presented your budget asks today. As elected officials, it's our task to ensure that tax dollars are being used wisely, and which is why we occasionally put things out for an RFP for contracted services or bids. This ensures that we're doing our due diligence in pricing for the services that cost our taxpayers so much. We do rely on our emergency service partners to carefully plan for the future, so the contributions they're asking township taxpayers to give to their organizations are actually reasonable and attainable. Our township population has remained fairly flat between 2019 and today, which means our EIT base is not really expanded. We are pretty close to being built out, and we have maybe a couple of areas where we can build 2 or 3 homes here, a dozen there, that kind of thing, but we don't have much growth that's left. And we know that due to inflation, the cost of goods and services in general, and staffing and supply chain interruptions, we're fully cognizant that the budgets for emergency services have blown up. Here in East Goshen Township, we've met those rising requests for the past many years for these organizations. With the estimate we're being faced with today and projecting for the next 5 years, we're fearful that emergency services are going to become at least 50% of our budget before we know it. There was a tax millage increase in 2022 for the calendar year 2023, which brought in about $800,000 revenue. We were expecting to be able to put some in reserves. We're expecting to spend some of it, and it was projected to last us for several years before another increase would have to occur. Due to these rising costs, this increase has been completely consumed almost solely by police, fire, and EMS, ambulance services. This is no longer sustainable for taxpayers. An EMS tax is not an option that I personally can tolerate today. And just because other municipalities are considering it doesn't make it right. It just makes it that's what they're choosing to do. Here in East Goshen, not including the EMS, our budget just in the township alone has actually decreased from 2024 to 2025 by 1.1%. So we're actually saving internally $77,000. And that's thanks to thoughtful, short and long-term planning by our staff and by the supervisors here and past supervisors. This allows for wage increases for township employees. And we don't touch any of their budgets or pensions. We're still contributing 100%. EMS contributions are 45% of our 2025 budget. Over the past 5 years, it's been about 40 to 41% of our budget. As partners in serving the community, we're respectfully requesting our emergency providers to look carefully at cost and wages and share with us some of your cost saving measures that you're taking to keep doors open. And that doesn't mean tonight. That means when we do have meetings with you to discuss this, we'd like to know what some of your cost saving measures are, specifically. Because while you might be a private entity, you are serving the public as well, using tax dollars to supplement fundraising efforts and private donations from generous benefactors. Our township has a finite amount of money when the community is virtually built out. And so we're hopeful that you all are going to be partnering with us in understanding where our taxpayer dollars are being spent. And again, that's just my statement. That's how I feel. And I appreciate the fact that that you all have come to us. I'm very concerned though, because projecting forward for the next 5 or 6 years, it's a little scary. If we were to continue this trajectory with Goshen Fire Department, we're looking at about 108% increase over 2019 to 2029. And that's just with 3% in the rising contribution. And with, honestly, with good fellowship, I mean, it's a smaller dollar amount, but it's 200%. Is what we're projecting. And that's only if we go with a 3% interest, just a 3% rise in the contribution that we're making. So my concern is those percentages are not sustainable. And that's something that we have to start looking at a little bit more specifically, seeing how we can rein things in a little bit. And you need to tell us, what we can do to help you rein things in. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? All right. Thank you. All right, we're gonna go back in and have,
Do we want to do the poll? Or
yeah, let's go ahead. Let's finish up the public meeting. And then we'll go ahead and hop back over to the budget. So standing issue is Milltown Dam. Thank you for coming this evening. Standing issue projects, Milltown Dam.
I have nothing on that yet. I'm hoping to, well, I did have a conversation with Mark just recently about the 25-mile-an-hour. So we're still looking into that. It may have to meet certain PennDOT warrants. So we're looking at that with PennDOT right now. That's, I guess, sort of the big move on that.
Thanks for coming, guys. Appreciate it.
And this is not on the standing issues, but I know it's been brought up, the Bow Tree pond dredging. So that, I know that the sediment has been in those bags for quite a few months, ready to dry. So they were taken out this week. So Mark and the guys are starting to kind of spread that out, beautify the area, if you will. So it was a little bit more wet than we would have liked, apparently, but it was well enough to start the process. So hoping to wrap up and be able to seed and straw there soon.
Great. Yeah, I was over there this morning at 6:45 with Mark. A nice little ride around.
And that is all I have.
All right. Are there any other matters with the board? Is there any public comment now or later? We'll do later. Liaison reports, anyone?
I would just like to mention that met with Pipeline Task Force this week, and they are beginning to look intentionally and be proactive about how they're looking at Mach 2 and carbon capture. And I think that's particularly relevant this week with the fire that's happening. We're on top of pipelines all over in East Goshen. And so they're just beginning to see what we might do as a township to be proactive in how we address what might happen with Mach 2 and with carbon capture. And again, that is their preliminary stages, but they asked that I let you know that that's what they're looking at and doing current research on.
Excellent.
You're looking at the fire in Houston?
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, I think, that
Okay.
kind of thing could happen.
What we don't have yet, at least that I'm not aware of from Pipeline Task Force, is an emergency evacuation plan.
Well,
Wasn't the county working on one?
we can't,
Yeah, I haven't heard from the county in a while for it, but yeah, that was the general thought was we were putting ours on hold because the county was doing a countywide one. And it was probably better that they were doing it on a larger scale. But now that you mention it, I have to circle back because I haven't heard anything in months.
So that might be a good thing to make an ask to the pipeline, say, would you consider taking this on?
The pipeline company, you mean?
Pipeline task force.
Task Force, yes.
So.
We've already asked the company and
They're not-
No, they're not interested, but, I think that with the ordinance that that the board recently passed for, carbon monoxide pipes with easements, that's our best defense that we can work on is making sure we have appropriate easements in terms of if there's a fire, we're not burning up homes.
agreed.
So anyway, great.
Terrific.
Just thought I would, thank you.
Anybody else with liaison report? Cody, do you have anything? Well, you did the conservancy walk.
Oh, yeah. We did our conservancy dog walk. And started over at the Chamber Building, went all the way down to Climbers Woods. We saw both our trees that are still doing fantastic. And then we had someone join us from East Goshen Vet, actually a vet tech, which was actually Peter's neighbor. So
Oh, that's very nice.
yeah, Shelley was there. So it was a fantastic event. And next time I wish we had a lot of people that we asked, hey, do you want to bring your dog? Because obviously the park's swamped, but like my dog, they all have their routine. They don't really like it broken. So we got a lot of thanks, but no thanks.
I was out with Mark this morning and on the municipal authority side, there are a couple of, we'll say kinks in the sewer lines in a couple of locations. So he's going to be addressing those sewer issues in the coming weeks and will give us more information moving forward. As well as a stormwater drain that has also been compromised that they're currently also working on replacing. So, and some of that's been up on the forest, not forest, Willow.
Willow
Pond, yeah,
Yeah, that's the Aqua project.
the Aqua project, but there are a couple of other issues as well right now,
Yes.
and I'll be going to the COG on Thursday evening. All right, so bouncing back to old business, continued discussion on the proposed budget, so Dave, if we were to do a 3% ask for the Goshen Fire Department, what would that look like, and what would it look like to do the ask that they're requesting, the 9%?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
The ask that they have is.
I'm just wondering where we would,
Their request is basically a $43,000 increase versus
Right.
2024. So from 477,000 to 520,000. That would be the 9% increase. So if you take that $43,000 divided by 3, we're talking $13,000-ish, 12,000. No, that's wrong. 15.
let's say round up to
14.
45,000,
About
it's about
14.
14 and a half.
14. Yeah.
All right, so where would we be able to find that extra 40 some $1,000 for the department?
As discussed with the other funds, I would look at the transportation fund to offset some signal maintenance, things like that, signage. On the highways, we could also look at, the traffic light maintenance and the signals. And then also probably tree removal with the infrastructure fund. We've got stormwater work we could probably get out of the infrastructure fund. So it's a savings from the general fund, but it's still a net increase to taxpayer dollars being spent.
Okay,
For clarification though, you put 3% in your original budget, right? So in reality, we're finding an extra 30,000.
really only.
No. No,
No,
I had the exact rate of 2024 in there.
That was flat, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I'm gonna jump down a couple slides. I'll try and make this brief. It's one more. So I really just wanted to highlight the differences. This is based on the prior discussion at the last board meeting about all other funds and the capital projects. There was feedback during that meeting and then individually with board members after that. So beating it up, I took out the $12,000 that was in the large format scanner. No reason to keep it in there until people start complaining that something's going wrong. The large overhead garage doors, I pushed to 2027, 28, 29 from 2026. We can revisit this each year, obviously, depending on the shape of the doors. Nothing needs to be done. We're not gonna do it. Same thing with the township building windows. They were 26 and for the entire amount of $100,000. We pushed it back to 2028 and split it between 2 years. Unless something starts going wrong, we're not planning on doing them anytime soon. Next slide. So let's see. So we were talking about the dump trucks and we said, yeah, we can kick them an extra year based on life usage, how well they're treated by Public Works. So we took out, instead of having one every year, we did it every other year. So that's for $550,000 out of this capital 5-year budget. I put in here as a placeholder, Derek and I had a discussion, request from WeGo for their own, sorry, should be covered, should be covert, radar law enforcement, and that's, we currently have one and Public Works uses it. WeGo's requesting, and Derek can enlarge upon it, their own.
Yeah, I mean, they're not so it's a little bit of a having discussions with them over there and looking at what works from a traffic study perspective. So right now, a lot of times Public Works sets it up internally for them. Although they appreciate it, sometimes it makes it difficult for them to track and making sure it's in the correct mode and making sure that they can verify all that so that the data is correct. This stems from the fact that they do the same setup with Westtown. So Westtown has their own device.
Bought by the township.
Bought by the township, owned by the township, but in possession of traffic safety unit in order for them to jump on something when necessary. So that's essentially what this is for instance, the Highland Avenue situation, that's going to pop up more and more because I get inquiries every day about speed bumps and traffic calming and all that. So
Probably Reservoir Road too, the trail now.
yeah. So it's just a way to keep Public Works out of it. I mean, another piece of this is Public Works is so busy with a lot of the projects we're doing around the township. It would be nice in order to automate the process a little more and just have me directly go to the police and be able to do that way. And again, cut Markin's guys out of it. It's just they're so busy elsewhere. So that's the theory behind that purchase.
And this is just for the board's interest, if they're interested in doing this. The other changes that I have are pushing one of the F-350s with spreader plows from 2027 to 2028. We've got the chipper. Chipper was 100,000. We're estimating the bigger one's probably going to cost with recent estimates closer to 150,000, and we're pushing it until 2028 instead of 2026. We are moving one of the tractors from 2026 to 2028. And it looks like the paver, the latest estimates on the size that we would need is more like 400,000. So I moved it from 2026 to 2027.
I have a quick question, Dave.
Yes.
Why did we move the F-350 pickups?
Just to space it out, we think we can get another year out of it.
How long does it take once we order them to come in?
Really depends. I mean, sometimes it's 2 years, sometimes it's a year and a half.
So it's at least a year though.
That's what we've seen. I mean, we just got some that we ordered in. I think I said 2022, but Mark corrected me, I said 2021. I think we ordered at the end of 2021.
So hypothetically,
So we
then,
just got like a bunch of them at once.
so hypothetically, we order a truck in 2026, we're not gonna get it till 2028, and the 2028 one, we're not get till 2030.
Possibly.
But that's not necessarily the case. The supply chain was disrupted because of COVID, but it's starting to straighten out.
It's still taking a while for trucks.
Also, what we've done in the past, when we had a delay like that, we ordered early.
Well, that's what I was getting to.
I'm sorry.
No, I agree. No, that's what I was thinking. It's like, okay, well, if we're gonna,
Yeah, I mean, most of the time you're gonna have to put money out front though.
how much of it are you supposed to put out? Like that, all of it?
No.
It's
usually
not as
about a
much
third,
about
isn't it?
putting the money out front as it is, we're backing it by making a purchase order. As soon as we put in a purchase order, we locked it in. Because it's, almost everything is custom. So,
Right.
the way that we would do it is we lock it in with a purchase order. The first payment's not gonna come due until the chassis comes in. And that could be 6 months, could be a year.
Right.
So the timing of the money isn't gonna be necessary up front. But we would come to the board and say, look, we had this in the budget for this particular year. We need to put the purchase order in now to assume that it comes.
Okay.
So we could still, we're still gonna communicate with the board about timing.
It's not a hill I'm gonna die on. I was just questioning the chipper. How long does it take for a chipper to get in?
Oh,
Oh, they
that's a
they
special
have,
chipper.
they have them right now. We're trying to stretch out the
Got
one
it,
that we
okay.
got, and we also, to John's point on the earlier, we didn't want to do the paver and the chipper in the same
Right.
I
year.
would get that.
And the paver, it looks like it's wearing out faster.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it is the higher dollar item. The chipper, we can stretch it out. We are having, Travis do a lot of our tree removal anyway, so we're hoping that we just use it for smaller stuff. See how that can work differently as we get, a bigger. And we
Plus-
use both.
Plus, he can rent it occasionally too. There's not a
large
problem with
chipper.
him, the large chipper, he can rent that.
If needed.
So if we need it,
We
it's,
can do
it's not like we
that, yeah,
can't
like an
get it.
intermunicipal thing, we could do
Yeah.
with that, just like we plan on with the back truck.
Yeah.
That we would look at what Brubacher charges. One of our guys or two of our guys would go with them, we would recharge for
Mhm.
our guys plus the truck. And it helps pay for itself when we're not using it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it might not be ideal to not have your own, but there are ways, if we need it in the meantime, we can still get it,
Yeah,
so.
it's just like what we would do.
How old is this equipment? How many hours are on?
Not as much as you would think on the chipper, it's just being a smaller one, it wears out faster. I'll have to check the actual date of purchase on that one.
And it's not rebuildable.
They did take it and got some work done, I wanna say 2 years ago.
I think it was 2022.
Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago, and then the paver, we continually get that one fixed. I mean, it's ongoing maintenance with that, it's basically like a truck.
Yeah.
It gets pounded into oblivion.
It really does.
Are there grants for some of this equipment
The LSA grant,
that we're giving to Goshen Fire?
you can apply for any kind of capital equipment.
So
It's very loose restrictions.
hypothetically, if we were to get 2023 for Goshen Fire, that next round of November, what's the likelihood of us getting back to back?
As good a chance as anybody else.
So what would you put in for 2024?
2024, I am talking to Mike Ellis to put something in for a sewer project. Discussions with John Murray from the council reviewing the grants, and putting them forward to the CFA is, he said, this money's not going anywhere. People are gambling up a storm.
Yeah,
So
it's records.
they're keeping to do it, and it's expanded, so it's not just localized, so it's statewide, and that's why everybody's going for it. So it is more competitive.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of money out there, so the maximum that a single township can apply for is, you could actually have a municipal authority apply separately, I believe,
Okay, cool.
from the township. So I could do one for a sewer project to reline and televise a section of the township for, say, $300,000, and then I could go for another one for a $400,000 piece of equipment that East Goshen needs.
Cool.
And we'll see what they say.
Thanks for
It doesn't hurt to go out for it.
Go for it.
So what you're saying, Dave, is, if we up their taxes $125, they get upset and we have a room full of people. But if they lose $125 at the casino, what the heck?
They have a chance, John.
Yeah, they do.
You gotta buy a ticket to win.
Maybe we ought to go double or nothing on the taxes.
Oh, man.
I'm not that much of a betting man. After some discussion and finding out the West Whiteland, prices on their, restroom facilities, I put this from 250 to 400. This is really gonna be an ongoing process of figuring out how much the board is willing to, use of the bond fund. What kind of facility, whether it's constructed versus, the prefab. And once we get some of these ideas, we can bring them to you guys to evaluate what it looks like. Maybe we could even go out on site and look at some of the ones. I know Jason stopped by West Whitelands. I was gonna do the same thing one of these days.
And
Where's
where's
the one-
Whiteland is, prefab
No, that's construction.
construction?
And that was
Oh, I-
500. So it's
Oh,
usually
I-
more expensive for the constructed.
Where's the prefab? I thought that was West Whiteland.
No, we got diagrams sent us.
Oh, okay.
The prefab, we looked
So we don't know
online.
where there is one locally then.
I haven't seen
Okay.
one that,
Yeah, we just got some pictures from the manufacturer, essentially.
and apparently the prefab one should last similar length of time. It's not like, that was my question, is this gonna last another 50 years or is it, and no, they're really made well. It's just what price you wanna pay, how nice you want it to fit into the township kind of park feel, so. The Bow Tree Pond Connector Bridge, talked to Nate today. I put this from, and inserted this based on our comments, talking with Cody from last meeting. I put in a $300,000 placeholder. This is the estimate that we got on the high side for doing the Bow Tree Bridge. We did have pushback from a few local residents that abut that, open space owned by the township. They were concerned about parking and people pulling in there and hanging out and late nights and things like that. But everyone seemed to like, having some kind of way to go out between them and, between the Bow Tree and New Kent and go down the side of the road there. So right now Nate's, gonna do a more extensive deep dive with some of the $10,000 we allocated. That didn't go to the Futures Committee, but went into engineering to look at a plan for this, what agencies are involved, how much permitting might have to happen, what kind of easements would be involved. So it should be a lot more detail, give us a better idea of what this total cost could be. They're thinking right now, as of today, that it would be cheaper than the 300. I don't know how it's possible, but we'll find out.
Okay. Okay.
Hershey Mill Pond, I went back through this with, Mark, and looked at what we just did with Bow Tree and the costs, using the dredging, and this is gonna be it's a smaller pond, but it's in pretty bad shape. So we pushed the board's recommendation, push it from 2026 to 2025 and put an additional $100,000 in there. We hope it will come out cheaper because this should probably be 100% public works job. So it's gonna be them finding the time, doing all the dredging themselves, because they could actually get the equipment in there, whereas Bow Tree's diameter, we're not getting close.
I'm a little slow on this one. Where is this pond?
It's right off,
Tanglewood, Tanglewood,
Yeah.
corner of Tanglewood.
as soon as you come in,
Okay,
it's
not in Hershey's Mill.
No, it's
It's
just
in Hershey
Hershey's
Mill
Mill Estates.
So it's right across
Yeah.
from.
It's right across from the
Right.
Miller property that's up with Moser, I believe.
All right,
Correct.
Hey, John. John.
Next, please. I have no changes to the sanitary treatment plant. Those were all of the major issues that I had. If you go to the last one, there was a couple of points I just wanted to discuss that were brought up last time. Next slide. Okay, so we went through the capital changes. We were currently reviewing existing contracts. We've had a lot of feedback that nobody likes our phone system. And that was just as of 2021. So I didn't know if the board wanted to think about a new phone system.
what's the matter with it? What do they say is the matter with
The feedback, well, we can't do our own, we have very little control over the system itself.
Yeah.
So anytime anything has to be done, so there's a provider and a carrier, and then there's a servicer. who is contracted with the carrier, and anytime anything needs to happen, that person is paid hourly to come out and service it.
So when you get a new employee,
You want to set a different
Let's set
message,
it-
they have to do it.
I see.
Oh, that's all.
yeah,
Yeah,
it is. all.
as opposed to
You
like
can't,
going to
you can't
Comcast
unplug a
business,
phone and
which
plug
is
it in a
direct.
new office yourself. You gotta call them to do
Yeah.
it. I mean, my wife works remotely. She takes her phone from her office, brings it home, plugs it in and calls.
So I guess it's a little bit more complicated in that a lot of the issue is the business model related, not just the equipment, although the equipment is pretty archaic. It's a little bit more to it.
We've had a lot of trouble internally recently with, you're supposed to get an email message when somebody leaves a voicemail. So if you're not in the office, like Jason especially, or Mark, you can pull it up, you got a message, you listen to it, and you can do it on the fly mobily, or Derek's at a conference, he can listen to his messages. It's not working, and we've tried a number of times. to
Do we
get it
have a
fixed.
contract with the provider?
So that's a good question. We have a contract with Net Carrier, yes, which in turn makes it a contract with the third party agent that has to be the one legally to provide all the services to us.
It's
Can we
something,
get out of
Can we end it?
it's something we were gonna probably shoot over to Mark to take a look at.
Yeah,
Because it's Net Carrier, the latest one we have ended in 2021, and it's the difference between, is it a 12-month renewal versus a month after month
Yeah.
after month?
so you passed it in May 2021. And the talk back then and what we hear is that it's through 2026. But I haven't seen solid language to back that up, so we're still kind of.
Last contract we have
Okay.
ended in 2020.
How about the equipment? Do we own the equipment or
Yes.
do they own it?
We own the
We own the
equipment.
equipment.
Okay, so we need a system, but we don't need equipment.
Depending on the system, I don't know how that interfaces with the equipment.
Your phones.
We need to get a system that'll interface with, if we can get out of the contract. Okay, thank you.
We discussed the 25,000 from ARPA for additional microphone and AV upgrades to be determined for the boardroom. 5,000 for an ABC event in 2025. It was currently not in. Everybody's still supporting those initiatives. Okay. In the current general fund, I have 2 newsletters per year, not 3. It's gotten up to about 3,500 per newsletter. So I have 2 in. We are currently doing 3 and just need direction whether we should stick with 3 or go to 2 because we need to communicate with the saleswoman who does the advertising for us.
I think I'm in favor of 2.
Yeah, if we weren't facing this budget again, I'd say 3, but 2 it is.
Yeah. I agree if there's,
General opinion is 2.
I agree
It's okay.
if there was room, I'd like to have a third, but I don't think there's room right now.
There are times that we struggle to get material
Yeah.
from different ABCs because they're not changing. And most of the things that people are looking at, it seems, is Parks and Rec related, which they're getting from a different source.
Though I would like to see accessibility to the Parks and Rec material more easily found by links to the website.
I agree with that.
That's a good point, and we can make that happen with our revised website that we're working on.
Because like when
Very
I've
quick
tried to
one.
find things, it's like,
Where is it?
where is it? And,
Yeah.
and if I'm spending an hour or 2 trying to find an event.
Well, we can
there
do
are other people who-
we can do it now too. It's a matter of, I mean, it's a pretty simple thing to link a PDF to a date on the calendar. I think something like that would be more helpful in general.
And probably very quickly.
Put Parks
yeah.
and Rec on the calendar on the website,
It's
so
something
just so
actually-
that it's easy. Not everybody is on Facebook, not everybody is on a list with a town. Parks
And
Rec.
it's hard, I have to be honest with you, every time I go on that website, I cannot find the calendar. I'd love to have it be a little bit more sizable.
Yeah,
The total
calendars
calendar?
come up early.
The calendar icon is very small and it's always an afterthought for me. It's, I know I struggle with
I just
with
go
it.
there right away.
I struggle with it.
That's
I struggle with it every
I think
time.
we have our first staff meeting with the website coming in early October,
Early,
to kick
second, I think it's October second.
kick off the website redesign, so stay tuned.
Great.
So when September closes, I should have a full 9 months. I feel a lot better about trying to do a full year 2024 projection. A jump off to 2025, that could change some of the balance numbers that were shown in the all other funds, as well as the general fund. We have, depending on what the board chooses for the Goshen Fire contribution, good fellowship, Malvern, any changes that occur with the 2025 WEGO budget. I'm gonna work on that and try and get that out for you on the website as soon as I can.
I would ask if the board could, I mean, you don't have to do it tonight, but individually talk to Dave and kind of so we can get a feel for where each of you are on the EMS contributions, because it is going to be one of the final pieces of the puzzle here to see about getting a balanced budget. So just
I was just gonna ask, are there any other requests that are gonna be coming into us that we are waiting on?
We don't know,
No.
the information that I would probably incorporate into the budget that's most high priority is gonna be when I get the insurance numbers and pension numbers in September, which is coming up very quickly. We already got the MMOs, but the Delval and the workman's comp
Yeah.
are gonna be the numbers that could go up or down.
But they did give us a little bit of an estimate already, right?
Yeah, they said
Yeah.
6 to 8%. I've got 6% in. We also do have some built up rate stabilization that we could use. I'd like to say for a rainy day if we can, depending on how we can shift to other funds.
Mm.
And then we also need to see where the final payroll shakes out once before it gets reviewed departments.
Insurance is always the last piece of the puzzle, it seems like, because they just don't want to, their actuaries do not want to commit to numbers too early, so it becomes a little bit of a game, but
All right, so besides that, then that's really what we're waiting on at this point.
So Malvern, we almost never get a request from. So
no.
right now, they are flat with what they got last year.
Yeah.
We heard a $4,000 increase request from Good Fellowship and the 40 something thousand for Goshen Fire.
All right, well, everybody go ahead, make sure that you touch base with Dave on your thoughts on that. I think that closes then the budget part of the meeting.
Unless
Yes.
there's other
Any other
types of stuff.
questions?
John, I have a printout for you too for the Parks and Rec detail.
Wonderful.
I'm gonna ask if there's any public comment at this time. Is there any public comment in the Zoom room? Is there any other comment on the board?
Very quickly, tomorrow after we go, hopefully have a better idea on the we go, the budget, and anticipate to be lower than what, well, I don't anticipate, I'm fairly certain it'll be lower than what it's projected.
Okay, you're gonna be Zoom. Yeah, I'll be the minute. I'll go to the meeting.
Okay,
Parks and Rec was talking about increasing the field fees.
oh, some of the non-resident fees,
No, the field
And-
fees
and
for
field
like
fees.
Little League and stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah, I've got
They're
a
on the low
list.
side.
I've got a list of some items for Parks and Rec. We'll just pull that up for you.
Mm,
They're lower, they need to increase.
I don't know.
Dave is pulling up, he's pulling up some of the fees that,
Yeah, Jason gave me a good rundown.
So- perhaps you could send that out to the board so that we can all take a look at the fee structure. And then is there also gonna be fee structure changes for the codes department?
Most likely there'll be a few, little ones, we're looking at that right now with Kelly and, nothing major, but, we'll get that to you sooner rather than later.
Okay. And that's really not gonna affect the budget. I mean, what could affect the budget is gonna be the non-resident fees that go up, any resident park and rec fees that go up, and the, like you said, the field fees. So, Dave, why don't you just send that out to us instead of trying to pull it up tonight?
Okay.
Just when you get a chance. All right? I don't think there's anything else.
Motion to adjourn.
Second motion.
In
Aye.
favor? Aye. Have a good night.
Hey.